a full bachelor's degree?
At this moment, there's a lot of possibilities, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I think this is why we're here today, to get this boat in the water.
Yes,
and,
sir.
and get the
This is a
discussion
great
going.
bill, and I know this is a great program. And
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so I think, please, as I'll say that, at the end, those who have ideas how we should change it, well, please give them to us in writing so we can kind of work with them. There's no sitting in concrete, that's for sure. This is a working document.
Well, I'll do that to the chairman, to
Sure.
Representative Reeves. Thank you. And again, the second question. You mind if I ask the second question, please? The GMC will be added. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Well,
Yes.
yeah, that's oversight.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
You bet.
All right, our next question is from Chairman Dickey. You have one? Okay. You were 12, right? Somebody hit 12. Okay.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even look on the bottom row. I apologize. Chairman Jones, Vice Chairman Jones.
Thank you, Chairman Stovall. Guys, this is really just a question that's always bothered me, frankly, about how we cover the virtual schools, and it's being perpetuated in this. The idea that we are not going to cover the summer when there are so many times that a child's ability to be able to take advantage, for instance, of a college course might be better suited in the summer when maybe they don't have band, or they don't have an extracurricular activity, or they don't have a sport, etc. So the idea that we're cutting off the funding in the summer, I understand it from a fiscal point of view because I'm on K-12 appropriations with the man walking out of the door right now. But from a practical point of view, being able to avail it to the children, I'm just wondering, was that discussed?
Not in the meeting I was in, but that's something to put down. Sure, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, on that, obviously budget is the issue here. And so as far as students taking summer courses, it's my understanding that they would be able to utilize HOPE funds to do that during the summer times. That possibility does exist. This is a hard conversation. It's not an easy thing to do, but there has to be some restraint in here in order to make this work. And the possibility is there by using their lottery-funded HOPE grants for summer courses. Yeah, or they can pay for it themselves out of pocket. That's right.
Yeah, right now they can, for instance, on the virtual schools, in terms of the high school, what has never been clear to me why the idea of virtual should be, more, I'll say, liquid than the physical schools. But we do not provide for funding in the summer for them, and then now it's carried over to the dual enrollment. And I just wanted to I assumed it was strictly funding, and we needed to find a way to cut to be able to get inside, where we needed to be and stop the triple funding that we're doing right now. But I didn't know if there was another policy reason why we were driving that decision. Just dollars? Okay, thanks.
All right, are there any other questions from committee members? All right, I have a couple of questions. For line 35 through, well, actually not there. Yeah, 35 through 38. And it's a general question that might not be covered in there, but how does this affect the alternative graduation program that we currently have in place, where the students would complete their 9th and 10th grade with 8 EOC courses, and then they're able to leave high school altogether and go full-time in college and earn their associate's degree, and then, of course, they still graduate from high school as well. Do any of the changes in here affect that program that we currently have in place?
Ma'am, I don't know, but in a moment, you can save that question. Mm-hmm. Do you know about that? When we get through, we'll turn it over to this fine lady, and she might be able to answer that.
Okay. And my next question, also in here, I was trying to read through it about the graduation plan. And I know many of our school districts, I don't know where it might be in the bill, I'm just asking the general question. I know I saw it in the original bill, something about mentioned about the graduation plan. I know many of our schools, some of the school districts don't actually utilize that graduation plan. So I was wondering, was it located in this bill? And then if so, where was it? And then how does that play into the, I guess, the counseling part, now that we're requiring additional counseling for our students?
Well, I think in our bill, it really just specifically addresses from the providing institution. They've got to engage the student, so we don't address that. That's at the high school level. But I think the counselors have been in contact with them, because they still have to remember to apply. They've got to be academically prepared to go to university or technical school, wherever. I think the answer's there, but we need to find out.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And one last question I have is dealing with the transportation on the 185, I think through maybe 190, where it was eliminated. And I just want to know, did you have an idea of how many students would be affected by the transportation not being offered? I know a couple of students that were able to utilize it, especially in the metro Atlanta area, where they were able to use bus pass. I know like in Atlanta and even in Clayton, they were able to use bus passes to go back and forth, or the buses actually picked them up and took them to the college campuses that were close to them. So is that eliminated now because of the grant is no longer there, or?
Yeah, the dollars we're not in this budget that we're in right now, and so we're just taking it out. There's no dollars directed for it.
Do you know how many?
Go ahead, excuse me.
I'm sorry. Do you know how many students were utilizing the transportation program?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm not on that appropriations. Would not know that one.
Okay.
We can find that out though. She can speak. This lady's smart.
All right. Those are all the questions I had.
Well, also with us, to answer those very difficult questions, about finance, and this lady is the chairman. You're the chairman or the
interim president.
Interim president of Georgia Student Finance.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman, committee members. My name is Kaylee Noggle, the interim president of the Georgia Student Finance Commission. I'll address your two questions first. The first, you were questioning the language you were talking about, the graduation plan allowed for students to earn their high school diploma by earning a associate's degree, diplomas, certification, and training in lieu of attending high school for 4 years is still outlined in this bill on starting at line 103. The impacts of line 35 to 39, as you pointed out, the impact would still allow students in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade to pursue those courses at the technical college system. The limitation would be on the 30 hours of state funding. If they needed additional hours beyond the 30, they would need to tap into their 127 hours towards their lottery-funded Hope Scholarship eligibility. In regards to the transportation grants, we did offer transportation grants to institutions for a couple of years with a subset. It was a line item in the budget for dual enrollment for a couple of years. That was eliminated last year in the amended 18 budget, I believe, and so we have not done those grants. I do not think that all of the transportation options available to students, as you referenced, were fully funded by that. So I do believe there still are schools providing transportation options. It's just it was a competitive grant process where we were able to issue some funds to the counties that did. We certainly have the data on the number of counties and how we awarded those funds. We could follow up with you and get you a report of that.
Please do. I do have another question. And this was, I guess, I know it's not changing anything in that 103 to 106, but there was a situation that came up with a couple of students who, because of their school district, did not require physical science to be taken. You had some districts that classes were taken earlier. And then this couple of students, I know this happened in APS, and so when they took the 8 EOC, so they met that requirement, but then there was a requirement for them to have taken the physical science course. I think before they can graduate, it was something dealing with the physical science course. But I believe the Department of Education, I think, might have cured that problem. So they might not have anything to do with here, but it was one of the requirements the student needed to be able to participate to finish out the dual enrollment program. Well, we do have a question, number 22. Okay, Chairman Belton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Again, I think dual enrollment is one of the greatest things we do in Georgia. I think such a successful program. But to my question about the TCSG, ma'am, do you have any percentages of how many students that would affect if they were to bump it up after the 30 hours? And, and the reason I ask it, because I hate to get a kid into the idea that, okay, they did the TCSG route and they got their, associate's degree, and now they're going to be hurt going towards a bachelor's degree with hope.
I don't have specific numbers on me of the number of students at the technical college system that are pursuing, or the number of their programs even. There are a number of their programs that require more than 30 hours. I'm sure we could work with our partners at the technical college system and pull some data for you.
Do you have any idea how much of the grand total money, how much TCSG is in reference to? In
dual enrollment?
Yes.
I believe it's about I actually have a chart. I think it's about 50%.
50% of TCSG?
No, they have about 50% of the students, about a third of the dollars.
Okay. So the dollars are much less in general than the dollars for the regions for the bachelor's degrees, in general.
In total awards, that's correct.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. So far we had. I'm still learning, y'all. Thank you for being patient. Okay, right now that's all the questions that we have, and we do have public comment, guests who have signed up to speak, and we will ask our first guest, Mark Whitlock from CEC, to approach the podium.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. We very much. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. We very much appreciate the work on this bill. This is a tremendous program. It does need to be made sustainable, and we appreciate very much the work on this. I appreciate the work of Madam Chairman Lynn Smith and her support on this. And to follow up on Chairman Belton's question, we are one of about 3 programs in Georgia that have just been identified by the Vinson Institute in a nationwide study as a best practice in experiential learning. Our program, the Georgia CAT German Apprenticeship Program, in fact, was identified as one of 11 best practices in the world by the German American Chambers of Commerce worldwide. In that program, students are required to take 50-plus hours to finish a diploma. It is an alternative path to high school graduation. So they make a commitment in their freshman year to spend the rest of their high school career doing this. In so doing, they have to go summers to finish the coursework in 3 years. It's a more rigorous program in terms of the number of hours required, because they also have to spend time with a manufacturer. Manufacturers are paying them a progressive wage rate over a 3-year period. These students, now our first cohort, these students are getting job offers. And they're getting job offers at wages above the average starting wage of a high school teacher in the state of Georgia. They're 18 years old. They have no debt. They likely will never enter another post-secondary institution, but they have a career, and it's a local career helping manufacturers. Companies have put 7 years of work into this program, and we just ask your consideration for 50 to 60 hours of coverage of them under the program. Their parents and others have felt a commitment to that as we've recruited them into the program.
All right, you have a question. Chairman Belton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can you reference what Representative Jones was saying about the summer school? Is that something that you're looking at as well? Because I kind of agree with him that it's just a lot of kids do have very busy schedules, and the idea that they can. I know I took some summer classes, and it wasn't too bad on me. So could you reference that?
Yes, sir. In this program, again, this is a very formalized program. So in this program, students during 2 summers will spend a half a day with technical college classes and a half day with their sponsoring manufacturer. So they've got a summer job, and they're taking classes that fit into the program. We've gone to Germany, gotten curriculum, worked with the technical college system to translate it into English and put it into certificates and a diploma program.
Yes. Mhm.
So this is one of the best programs in America, and this, as bill is written, would affect that because they could not earn this credit during the summertime. Is that correct?
They could not be covered based on the bill during the summer. They would have to use their HOPE hours, and they could not be covered after 30 hours under the bill.
And then if they wanted to get a bachelor's degree after that, then they would have lost some of the HOPE money.
Yes, sir. Unlike those who strictly take academic credit, which will transfer, these credits are not going to transfer to the university.
One more question, Madam Chairman. And isn't it true that the technical jobs are one of the things that in Georgia we're desiring the most as we're trying to put our efforts into those kind of jobs?
Chairman Belton, that's the case in our community where wages are rising because manufacturing jobs are growing. That carries a higher average wage rate. Chairman Belton, we've just recruited, with the help of the Georgia Department of Economic Development and others, a German manufacturer to move to our community and open for the first time in America manufacturing. So they're doing that. One of two reasons they gave for moving to our community was the fact that this program existed and could create the skilled industrial mechanics that they need.
And I definitely, you wanted to respond? Okay, hold on.
And my understanding is that there are less than 100 students in that program. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
I have a follow-up question, Mr. Whitlock. Are there other programs that you all have assisted to create similar to the apprenticeship in other counties as well?
We've helped to spread this particular program to the Griffin Region College and Career Academy and to Rockdale and Newton counties. We have a total right now of about 40 students in the program statewide.
And I definitely want to commend all the work that you've done over these years. And Chairwoman Smith, I did get an opportunity to visit the school most recently, and was very, very impressed with the work that you all are doing and the opportunities that they'll be allowed for our students who decide to take is non-traditional but traditional pathway. And I was just amazed at the amount of money that those students, when they turn 18, are eligible to earn, and also the skin in the game, as we say, from the manufacturers who are knowing that they're going to have direct students that are workforce that's going to increase their productivity in the state, and as well as the impact that it'll have on those families when we talk about getting them out of poverty. And a lot of the students are not going to leave the state. They're going to stay in the state, and even in you all's case in Coweta, Noonan, Georgia, they're going to live there in that community.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And in fact, the companies, in addition to paying the student, have to assign a mentor who has to go through a semester-long education course so that they can be qualified and certified internationally to teach students.
All right. Thank you. And is it not true that I want an apprenticeship program in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Whitlock.
Thank you.
I think that was all of the persons that signed up forward to testify on House Bill 444. Is there anything following up from you, Mr. Chairman?
No, ma'am, I think we're good. Just that, you know, we're wanting to move this bill along the process because crossover day is so close. And if anyone has suggestions, I've written some down, please get with us, put them in writing so it kind of makes it easier to handle and look at. But thank you for your leadership in helping us get to here.
All right. Chairman Belton?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. At the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
All right. Are there any other questions from the members? Okay, this is the appropriate time.
I'd like to make a motion to pass.
All right. Is there a second? Second. Okay, we have a question. All right, Chairman Benton.
the suggestions that have been made today, are they going to be incorporated into a substitute that is going to the full committee, or do we need to pass this as amended, or?
Now, we need to just go, at this moment, go ahead and do what we're doing, and we certainly will be working on a substitute, working with executive branch and our folks to make the appropriate decision.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, there was a motion, do pass, and there was a second. Any further questions before we call for the vote? All right, all in favor by aye? Aye. Any opposed by nay? All right, the motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Passed as
Pass
substitute.
as substitute.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next on the agenda will be House Bill 86 by Chairman Benton.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, I bring to you today House Bill 86. And the reason for House Bill 86, it gives the employee, and in this case the teacher, a right to appeal a performance appraisal to a higher level of supervision, which I think enhances the employer's perception of the job evaluation process, employees' perception of the job evaluation process as fair, and promotes good employee relations. It does this would happen only as long as we have a higher level review that is not a pro forma review. We also believe that the right of appeal provides another means by which the employer can assess whether or not supervisors are doing a good job of performing the evaluation. The bill in question is a simple appeals process for identified educators. Teaching is one of the only professions which cannot appeal an evaluation, yet after 2 years of poor evaluations, a teaching license can be suspended. This bill gives rights only to tenured teachers with unsatisfactory evaluations. Teaching is one of the highest turnover rates, as more and more educators realize they have limited to no rights and input in classroom discipline, evaluation appeals, and other critical factors which would elevate the education profession. The local system is able to construct the appeals process with emphasis on a non-burdensome process for all parties, a reasonable timeline, and a mechanism to have a fair intervention from a third neutral party if that is decided. This is a mechanism to enhance the professional side of teaching and education in general. Many educators, both leaving and remaining in the profession, complain of the current rigid law on the books regarding evaluations. This has been witnessed by the Department of Education as well as local systems, associations, and other education establishments. Fiscal component to this bill. And it's a proven fact that when educators feel they have input into their profession, they're more likely to stay. This bill is supported by teachers' organizations and State School Superintendent Richard Woods. Calling your attention to the bill, it's a very short bill, starting on page 22, starting on line 22, section 2, and going to line 39. That section gives you all the things that I just mentioned: the right to an appeals process, who can appeal, how the appeal process will take place, and what happens from there. I do want to point out that, find the line here. It has a reasonable timeline for filing an appeal that minimizes the burden on both parties. A statement that a teacher shall not be the subject of any reprisal or a result of filing an appeal pursuant to the paragraph, and a provision that an appeals hearing may be conducted by an independent third party. It also says that each local unit of administration shall submit a copy of its informal appeals policy that has been established to the Department of Education no later than September the 1st of this year. I'll be glad to take any questions if there are any from the committee.
Okay, so we have a question from Chairman Nix. Is that 27?
That's me.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions. The first one is, who would be an independent third party in this?
It could be a higher-up administrator would be one, and I guess it could be if both parties settle on someone to come in to be that third party. That maybe there's a suggestion on that.
Okay. Can I follow up?
Yes.
I remember when we talked about this and we were talking about the appeals, that was one of the issues, and you get into this negotiation process almost with trying to figure out what you're appealing and how the appeal will work. What would be the end result of this if you come back and say, okay, this was not a fair evaluation? Where does it go from there?
Well, without having the appeal process, I think the school system is leaving itself open to an employee that would attack the evaluation and a wrongful discharge claim.
Is there no appeals process at all now?
I'm not aware of one. There might be someone that's wanting to speak to the bill that could answer that question better than I can.
Okay, thank you.
We have a next question, number 22, Chairman Belton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is a great bill, Chairman Benton. I hear tons of questions about this when I talk to my teachers. But my question is exactly what Chairman Nix said, is if it doesn't work, is there a further, should there be more teeth in this so they could go to a higher authority? Is there Department of Education, can y'all comment on this? Okay, like Chairman Benton, should there be more teeth in this? If there's, if they don't get satisfaction from the locals, should there be more teeth in this?
It says here that there's a provision in the bill that an appeal hearing may be conducted by an independent third party or by an administrator in the system office on behalf of the school official or a local unit of administration. So you have someone that, the way I read it is that you have someone that has done the evaluation and there's a question about that, so it is appealed, but it can't be appealed to the person that did the evaluation. It's got to go to somebody higher.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next question, Vice Chair Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Chairman Belton, a couple of things.
No, I'm Benton. That's Belton.
Oh, Benton. I'm sorry.
We go to the same barber.
You do.
Same one you do.
I'm proud of that hairline.
Yeah.
My wife keeps telling me I look okay.
Well, they say that God only created a few perfect heads, the rest he covered with hair.
That's right. A couple things.
Sorry about that, Chairman Jasper.
A couple things. I apologize. The first, when I have exposure to Forsyth County school system. Mm-hmm. I clearly don't have exposure to the other 180. How often is this an issue?
Well, there are some systems that already do this.
Yes.
I don't know how many times this would occur within 1 year or within 5 years, mm-hmm. but there is the perception by the teachers that if they get a bad evaluation, let's say that they were having a bad day when the evaluator came in or something, but if they get a bad evaluation, then they have no way of appealing that right now. In other words, it's just there. It's part of their file. You know, one of the things I kind of wish they'd put in the bill was that the appeals process that goes in your file as well. It's not in here, but I would hope that the system would put that appeal in the employee's file. So I can't answer how many times this happens. I don't know.
Okay. Madam Chairwoman, may I? Thank you. My concern, sir, is that we're over-legislating a process that when I look at least at my school system and some of the other school systems up in northern Georgia, it seems as if the school systems are handling this, and it seems as if we're over-legislating a process that I think it's their responsibility to mentor and improve their teachers. So my concern really just comes down to, shouldn't we just be leaving this to the school board to ensure that the teachers are basically treated the way that they need to be treated?
Well, apparently we've been leaving it up to them, but a lot of systems are not doing this.
Right, and what I'm getting at, Chairman, what I'm getting at, Chairman, is we're not hearing it as something that is bubbling up to such a significant issue. It seems to me to be more of, I hate to call it a one-off, and I'm just wondering, is there something that we could do with the DOE to communicate downstream that if you're not doing this best practice, then by all means, please start doing this best practice as we've seen some other districts. So in other words, I'm not suggesting that those bad actors shouldn't change, but I'm just wondering, do we need to legislate the change, or do we just need to encourage it from the DOE down and let them know that there are systems that are doing it, and they're doing it in such a way to hopefully coach these teachers to improve from maybe an NA to a moderate up to exceeds expectations?
I guess we would need to ask the DOE if that would be within their purview to do that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is from Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you, ma'am. Since you dropped this, it's got an early number, 86,
Mm-hmm.
and I've talked to a lot of people about it. And I guess what I've learned, Chairman Benton, is the teachers that I've talked to about it like the idea generally because it's a voice, it's an opportunity, and though you and I've talked about this 2 or 3 times, our offices are adjacent. Mm-hmm. It's a start.
Yeah.
And I think then that's what I kind of look at, and that's why I kind of would like to see your bill. But one thing that I thought about, since the people are listening, is this may be part. We have all invested a significant amount of dollars in leadership training. With the different, we've got 2 of them I think going on, and I think frustrating in teachers is leadership. I think it's very clear. This is one of those things I think that's just underlying their inability to have a voice, but that's something that probably needs in the leadership training modules to be addressed, is how they deal with, from the top down and even into just evaluations and how they're treated.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's all, madam.
Okay. All right, we have another question from Chairman Belton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a comment, really. I agree with Chairman Jaspers. I hear this all the time. Teachers want some way to, if they have a bad evaluation, to be able to go to a higher authority. So I appreciate your bill, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Nix.
Yes, thank you. Do we have any idea what percentage of evaluations come out as less than favorable? And would this only be if you essentially failed the evaluation or got a bad mark? If you just didn't like part of it, could you go and appeal? I remember when we worked on this bill, one of the things about it was we were afraid if we started doing this, the system would never end. Everybody that got a mark they didn't like would appeal it, and pretty soon this would go on forever.
Well, you're limited to the teachers that have signed for the 4th contract. So anybody before that this doesn't pertain to. I think that the ability of the teacher to file an appeal at least gives them, and it gives the system some leeway in, well, leeway is not really the correct word. It gives the system, if they decide to discharge that teacher after 2 bad evaluations, then they can go back and say, we gave that teacher the right of appeal, and we tried to work on that, and we tried to work on those things that they were deficient in, and now we've come to this point, and you're being discharged because of this. So at least the teacher got a voice in why they were discharged.
Okay, follow up. So this would only be if it's an unsatisfactory report. It wouldn't be that they could appeal anything they didn't like in the report. If they got dinged on one thing, they couldn't go back and appeal that. Well,
I would say that it's the whole evaluation is unsatisfactory. I mean, you might come out with unsatisfactory on one particular thing, but the overall is a satisfactory. It's when the whole process is unsatisfactory.
Okay, I think that would need to be very specific in there, because I can see how you could get to nitpicking these things and it would never end. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions from committee members? All right, we have 2 individuals who signed up to speak to the bill. Oh, I'm sorry, I have a question, number 12.
Forgive me for not knowing the specifics, and maybe someone from DOE, but the TKES rating system, is there someone here who has subject matter expertise on that?
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chair, is there a question?
Yes.
Because to explain the whole system would take a while.
No. It's my understanding, because I just quickly texted someone up in Forsyth. It's my understanding, and is this correct, that there is no unsatisfactory rating within the TKES? They're saying that the ratings are, hold on, they gave me the book, but they basically went through, and there's 5 options, I guess, and I guess ineffective is the last one?
Yes.
Okay.
Ineffective.
Right. So would we be asking the appeals officer to change ineffective to unsatisfactory based on the wording of this bill?
It's my understanding, based on the wording, you would not be giving the third party any instructions of what they're supposed to find. It would be in their purview to make a decision based on the evaluation. I don't see in the bill, unless I'm missing something, they're required to do anything in particular other than comment on the evaluation.
So I'm not trying to be pedantic, but Chairman Nix just asked, is it only for unsatisfactory, or the unsatisfactory rating? And Chairman Benton said yes, and I see exactly where Chairman Benton's reading, but I quickly got a hold of Forsyth, and they're telling me there is no unsatisfactory rating. So my question is, if this bill is going to stay, do we need to sub it with a more consistent word, or maybe some parentheticals that would make it clear what unsatisfactory means, so we're not asking the appeals officer, to your point, I believe, Chairman Nix, that we don't have several people, but rather just the ones who got that 5th evaluation of ineffective. Is that it?
Anytime you can clarify a bill, it always helps everybody involved.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam.
I have a follow-up question, Deputy Superintendent McGivney. Could you name the 5 different levels that it contained? I mean, just by word, like we just talked about, one was ineffective. And so is there one above ineffective? Because the reason I asked the question is that the unsatisfactory performance could, like you said, it could be meaning that I felt it was unsatisfactory, not necessarily that I received an unsatisfactory rating.
I don't recall the exact names for each of the 5 categories.
Okay.
They are exemplary, proficient, needs development, and ineffective.
Okay. Could you read it one more time, please, sir?
Exemplary, proficient, needs development, and ineffective.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I might, I'm Meredith Weaver.
Okay, hold on, let me recognize you, hold on.
Okay, Educators First, and here is.
Okay, hold on, let me
sorry.
recognize you first, hold on. So, first speaker, we have Rosemary Vaughn and Elizabeth Rose from Educators First. Okay, now.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Would you like them here or?
No,
up
right
here?
there.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon. I guess it's still afternoon. Madam Chairman and the committee members. I'm Elizabeth Rhodes, speaking on behalf of Educators First, a 5,000-member bipartisan education advocacy group. And I'm here to encourage you to pass HB 86 out of subcommittee with a do-pass recommendation. As all of us seek to stem the tide of teachers leaving the profession, this is one step in the right direction of treating teachers with the respect that they certainly deserve. We are not trying to preserve the jobs of poor teachers. Any veteran teacher will tell you that they do not enjoy working with an incompetent teacher. And more than that, a no-good teacher wants to follow a poor teacher and struggle to bring those students up to where they should be. I've interviewed many elected officials, and almost all of them have a teacher in their family. And they speak of respect for those teachers. Passing this bill is a small step in demonstrating the respect for the teaching profession that you say you have. Even though this bill only covers teachers eligible for, I won't say tenure, I'll use the term fair dismissal. Beginning teachers will be paying close attention to how experienced teachers are treated. We've had two of the larger teacher groups, PAGE and GAE, review this legislation, and they have approved it. And make this legislation will be beneficial to all Georgia teachers. The way the evaluation tool works now is to treat teachers with a "because I said so" attitude. Used correctly, the Teacher Keys evaluation system is fair and prescriptive. However, it's not always used correctly. We're saying that this is not widespread. It's not, but it does happen. To answer Representative Jones' question about how many, Cobb County has an appeal process, and it's a large system, and they have about 8 a year, so it's not widespread. To speak to that, I'd like for Dr. Rosemary Vaughn, who is an expert in the evaluation process, to speak to actual issues of abuse of the tool.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosemary Vaughn, and I am the Associate Executive Director of Educators First. I left the classroom 3 years ago after dedicating 30 years in the education field. I've been a middle school teacher, an instructional coach, teaching teachers, and an adjunct professor of education in teaching teachers-to-be. And I also managed a $17 million grant that you know is Race to the Top. And during this time, I worked closely with the Department of Education and was there throughout the entire process of creating the Teacher Keys evaluation system and the Leader Keys evaluation systems. I was a trainer for TEKS and actually trained administrators and central office staff and how to evaluate. It's a complicated evaluation system. And we would even get together and do inter-rater reliability, where we'd go and observe and go back to a room and we'd talk about that, because it's not easy to do. It's based upon evidence. And when done well and done right, it works very well. But it's not always done well or done right. I now work for Educators First, and one of the things that I do is provide advocacy and I provide that expertise for our teachers that are struggling with a fair evaluation. It is heartbreaking to me as a teacher and an educator who's given my life. My daughter's a teacher now. in the field of education. It's heartbreaking to me when I get these calls from teachers in tears who are in a situation that they shouldn't be in, and they have no one to call. Because right now the law says there will be no appeal, that you can appeal the process, but the problem is there's no one to call. So there is no one to appeal to except your administrator who has given you, for some reason, an unsatisfactory. There's no one watching over the administrators for accountability to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And again, most of them are doing the right thing, but not all of them. I understand how TEKS is written. It's to be conducted and done in a very clear way, which gives teachers, it's a tool for improvement. It's not to be used as a weapon against a teacher. Stated in the protocol, when a teacher receives a poor evaluation, and you can, to kind of answer some of your questions before, you can get a lower score, and that's okay if you get a few of those. But what happens is, the TEKS, the way it's written, it says that that teacher is supposed to be provided with job-embedded professional development. If you're struggling with classroom management, you're supposed to get some tools to get better at that, whether it's some training or go watch another teacher or a mentor teacher. There's a variety of ways. If you receive quite a few unsatisfactory scores, which is a 1 or a 2 out of the 4, then you are usually put on what's called a professional development plan. And that plan is required if you have an end of year unsat. But I'm telling you, it doesn't always happen. And that is one of the tragedies that's going on right now. If you have an administrator that's perhaps new or doesn't know how to use this process very well, and they get mad at that teacher, we're all human, things happen, then they'll give them a low score, but they won't give them any support. They're not going to help them to get better. And again, that's a travesty. HB 86 is a simple bill that recognizes teachers as professionals. And it allows them to have a simple appeal, to have someone to call, someone who could hear and help when it's needed. As she said, this bill is not about keeping bad teachers. It's about saving the good ones who want to stay. We are losing teachers at an alarming rate because it's one of the hardest jobs out there. Who are these teachers? It's teachers like Taylor, who is a young, experienced middle school teacher. He had always received satisfactory evaluations. Last year, a brand new administrator came to the school. She struggled managing the school. Taylor had had a satisfactory evaluation every year, and during all of last year until late April, approximately 5 to 6 weeks before school was out, suddenly he began to receive unsatisfactory ratings, and at the end of the year, a final unsatisfactory. This was clearly an abuse of the process. I advised him to call his HR department. He did. They said, there's no appeal. There is no one you can talk to.
I'm going to ask you to kind of speed it up a little bit because we have 2 more bills that we need to hear.
I then contacted the PSC on his behalf, and they told me they don't have time to hear all the cases because there are too many of them. So we're just here before you today, and there are many, many others. But please know that there are situations, and it is very sad. And so that is what we are here to address today, is to give them someone to call, someone to help them keep their jobs. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next, we will hear from Margaret. She knows I never get her last name correct, from Page.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks to Chairman Benton for bringing the bill, and to many of you who were signers on it as well. I'm Margaret Ciccarelli from Page. I represent about 95,000 educators from across the state, about 75,000 of which are classroom teachers. And when I'm not here with y'all, I also work as an attorney in our legal department at Page and take a lot of these grievance calls, evaluation calls. So I am familiar with what happens, the technical and legal aspects of them. I do want to say that we support the idea of a review for evaluations because they are high stakes. The reason that they're high stakes, and Chairman Benton mentioned that in his opening presentation, is that if an educator receives an ineffective or needs development, and those are the two lowest rankings, as Forsyth County Schools weighed in on correctly, then an educator can lose his or her teaching certificate. And that makes these evaluations extremely high stakes. It's the reason why educators go to bat on that. So we think that this will, at a low cost or low stakes cost to a district, provide a review, not by somebody outside the district, but by somebody in the central office who can give it a second look. If you're interested to know them, I have certainly dealt with some pretty egregious cases of administrators who have delivered some evaluations that were unwarranted. The vast majority, however, are done very well, and very conscientious administrators who work hard to make sure that our teachers are performing well in the classroom. So I just wanted to thank y'all for this, and also say that if we did decide to just try to do this through administrative rule at DOE, that might be something that we could work together on to Representative, to your point. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a young lady that had wanted to speak. We'll give you about a minute and a half. Could you come to the podium and say your name? Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other questions from the committee members? All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion. All right, there's a motion to do pass on committee substitute LC 337730S. Okay. Is there a second, or is there a question?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and second, and you have a question, number 27. Is that Chairman Nix?
Yes, it is. I don't feel comfortable at all. I think we've got way too many questions to pass this bill. We don't even have the wording right on ineffective versus satisfactory and those type things. I think we need to table this thing and let's see if we can't get this right. We're about to make policy for everybody around, and we've already said that there's not everybody that's abusing this. So I'm concerned about that, and I would like to make the motion to table until we can get some of this worked out.
Okay, is there a further question number? Because we have a motion and a second on the floor. So, did you have a question, 26?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm actually not on this committee. I just knew I wanted to come. I'll be coming later. So do I have the right to ask a question? Oh.
Yes, you can ask a question.
Okay.
You just can't vote.
Well, I was, and this is, he's made a motion to table. I was thinking, if we didn't want to do that, we could do an amendment and change the wording on lines 23. But I'm sorry, I don't know the process. If you'd like me to make the amendment, or do we need to vote on something else first?
Because you're not on the committee, you can ask a question, but you can't make an amendment.
Would someone? The another option is, would someone else want to make the amendment of changing unsatisfactory to ineffective or needs development performance rating? That would be my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. 22, Chairman Belton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd be fine with trying to make that amendment if that's to change it from unsatisfactory performance in line 23 and line 28 to ineffective, and I think that would answer my questions.
Okay, I'm gonna defer back to the author of the bill.
Well, of course, it's with whatever the committee wants to do, but to me, unsatisfactory performance ratings, if ineffective is unsatisfactory, then that is the same, to me, that's the same thing. But whatever the committee wants to do on that.
Okay. The question I have is, if you change it to ineffective, where does that leave need development if someone feels that the need development is unsatisfactory? I guess that's a question, Chairman Belton, when you asked about.
That was the
changing
reason.
it.
That was the reason I thought that unsatisfactory performance ratings. It's not just one; it could be two. So we're not saying that it's either needs development or ineffective. We're saying it's one of those with unsatisfactory performance ratings.
All right, well, right now I know that we had a motion on the table. We had a second. And, okay, hold on. Okay, so here's the posture we're in. Chairman Nixon would not recognize for a motion. And so because we have a motion on the table and it was second, we're going to move for the vote. We've already done the questions. So all in favor of moving forward with the vote on LC as committee substitute of LC 337730S, make your vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. It appears that the ayes have it. And so thank you, Chairman Benton. I'll mess you up as well. The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. All right, so next, I know that Chairman Dickey has another meeting that he needs to get to, and I know we all have some other meetings we need to get to, but we're going to recognize Chairman Dickey, and that's House Bill 527.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to ask Gary McGivney from DOE to he could speak to this bill as well. Members of the committee, HB 527 is an update for the QBE program, updating the weights that are listed in code, and you've got it there in front of you. And so the code states that the variance of these program weights are no more than 1.5%, and with a large amount of money, teacher raise, and some other things, these weights will be out of compliance with code. So we have drafted this bill to rearrange the weights. It doesn't affect total money or budget. That's is the budget you passed this afternoon on the House floor is not affected. It's just rearranging the amount of money we have within these parameters and these weights. So Gary McGivney could certainly give you a little more detail of the bill.
Madam Chair and other members of the committee, you remember the FTE discussion we had recently where we went into detail about what is FTE, and we went into program descriptions and program weights. And if you remember the formula that I shared with you, the FTEs times the program weights times the base that the General Assembly established gives you the amount of money that's then allocated to local school systems. This bill just simply changes the weights in that calculation, that formula. So it doesn't change, as Chairman Dickey said, it doesn't change the formula, it doesn't change appropriations.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee members? All right, Chairman Jaspers.
At the appropriate time, ma'am.
All right, seeing that there are no questions, you are recognized for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, all in favor by the signs of aye. Aye. Any opposed by nay? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the committee, and thank
All right, next we have House Bill 83 by Representative Demetrius Douglas. Okay. Here's an extra copy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Yes.
All right, Representative Douglas, normally the procedure is if anytime you have a substitute, they get it to the office at least 2 hours before, but we will go ahead and proceed.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I didn't know that was a rule.
Well, that's to give the committee an opportunity to look at it.
Okay, it's only one word change.
Okay.
Same bill.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. It's only a one word change. It's on line 20. Each school is encouraged. That's only the one word change I have. I went over and talked to the Senate. If I'm able to get out of this committee and get it on the House floor. This bill has been passed, just a little history, this bill has been passed twice before in the House. Got caught in the Senate the last couple years, crossover day, and I'm trying to beat that number today. Went over in the Senate and talked to them and asked them what would they need to see, and this is it. And so I am willing to work with them on this change and move forward. Just to give you a little history why I'm so passionate about coming back in front of this committee is that I am an education major from the University of Georgia, and I did graduate from the University of Georgia with the education major with a minor in marketing. So if I have been teaching kids all of my life because I'm a high school coach presently, and this bill I think is very important for our youth. Let the committee keep in mind, this bill is only for kids K through 5. We're not dealing with the older kids right now. We just want to do the younger kids. And I think this is a great bill to get our kids back moving. I don't want to prolong the time. For the new members, this bill came in existence 2016. I did a resolution asking my constituents and the people in my district and outside the whole state of Georgia. I got such an overwhelming response from that, I decided to draw up this bill. And from this bill, it's been hung up in the Senate, we have found out that 8 other states are doing this bill right now, and it's working. They hadn't canceled the bill, they hadn't remodeled the bill, and I'm just doing the same thing that they've done. A wise man told me that was a very wealthy man. He said, if you get on a wheel, if the wheel's already rolling, you see somebody else rolling the wheel, don't reinvent the wheel. You find your spoke, you get on the wheel, and you roll. And so this is what we're doing. And with all of our hospitals and the way technology is today and our kids, and they want to put them on medicine, this gets our kids back moving again. They have PE 1 day a week, and they don't move. They're not like middle school or high school where they change classes. They'll be able to move about. They stay in the same classroom all day. I don't know too many elementary schools that kids change classes. And so this will help the kids get back moving. And I'm very passionate about this. And when I found out in my Health and Human Services Committee last year, and this is going to astonish you guys, that 75% of the adults that's on our state health care program right now, 75% are obese. 75%, guys. It has to start somewhere. And normally, if you are an obese kid, I would say 9 out of 10 times you're going to be an obese adult. And so this bring down our medical costs through the state. It also helps these kids get back moving. It also increases social skills just by running and playing and having the ability to focus and control themselves throughout a day. I think this gives them a great shot. It reduces stress along with improves brain function by being physically active. And when I first started this process, this bill was three lines long. And I sent it over to the Senate, and you see what we got now. And so I just want to be a team player and work together. And this is what they brought me back. And I said, I'll agree to this. If you work with me, I'll work with you. And let's come to a common ground and move forward. And I have a final quote I want to leave with you guys. Marita Montessori, which is the owner, started the Montessori schools. She said this quote: "The mind cannot be educated without using the body." Also, learning is integration of thinking and moving. And she has been very successful in her business portfolio for kids. And I think that's about it. I don't want to prolong the time. Just ask you for your favorable consideration, and if there's any questions, I'm here.
All right, I did want to make a mention that when you started earlier, you said it was only one line, and as I start looking through the bill, on line 15 is kind of where it changes from the original bill if you look at your substitute.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead. I just want to make that mention. But we do have a question from Chairman Belton.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I hit the wrong one. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I really like this bill, and I tell you, every time I've talked to a elementary school teacher, they say the kids need half an hour to run around just to get them stabilized. So, isn't it true that I'm very, very proud of your dedication and very admire what you're doing here?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, Chairman Jaspers.
And Representative Douglas, tell me, what was the word you said you changed in the Senate?
It was on line 20.
And?
Each elementary school is encouraged to include an average of 30 minutes. It was shall last time.
Okay, so you're going from such recess shall include an average of 30 minutes to?
Yes.
Where to go to? I can't find it. Each elementary is encouraged to include. Okay, and go to the, there's a number of additions, but on the last line of this, you on line 38, what's the meaning of that?
This is this code. Give me a second. I think this is a clue that's been added. There was a line that was in the bill that's already in the statute, and I think this line was added to make that clear of any visitors or anything like that on the school grounds while the kids are at recess, that they're not responsible for, actually, for their protection.
I need, as this bill moves along, I need you to make sure what that means for me.
Yes, sir.
And as we do that, and I would appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, are there any other questions from the committee members? Okay, we did have someone to sign, 2 people to sign up for, to speak to the bill, Cedar Cook. And if you would come to the podium over here. So I don't want to impose a time limit, but we need to get at it. So I'm going to, Ms. Cedar, if you don't mind, and please don't take offense to it, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes because we do have someone else that signed to speak on the bill as well.
Now, I've limited myself to one frame of the computer. Okay, I'm Dr. Cedar Cook, a retired educator, and this bill has been important for me for several years as I've met with other teachers and parents who have explained to me just what it means. In particular, Dr. Olga Jarrett is a retired professor from Georgia State who is a literally internationally respected expert on recess and play. She could not be here today because of a professional commitment, but the one page I just hand you, she had updated from what she had done last year. She particularly wanted me to mention that, where's that part? That while she and other experts are strong supporters of physical education classes, this is not anti-PE, they do not consider it to be the same thing as recess. PE is a structured class in which educators teach children how to develop athletic skills and to follow the rules of the game. Recess is a supervised but completely unstructured time for children to determine what kind of play or other activities they would like to engage in, while also learning how to interact with each other in ways they are seldom able to do in a classroom setting. That she also added that Arizona currently requires 2 recess periods a day, but allows one of them to be replaced by PE. We're not saying change it to that, but a lot of this is happening more and more each year. That we would prefer that on lines 14, 15, which is on, not the substitute, that's on the bill that I had, could be amended to read, provided, however, that on any day on which a student has physical education or structured activity time, the required recess period be a minimum of 20 minutes. In other words, 10 minutes less. So that our group doesn't want PE to set it aside. But otherwise, we're excited to have anything, and particularly the line that says that somebody should not be punished by being kept from having recess. Okay.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Next, we have signed up Margaret from Page, and I'm not going to mess up her last name again.
Page supports this bill, more recess for kids. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions from any of the committee members? All right, at this time, the floor is open for a motion. All right, the motion to do pass, is there a second? All right, it's been motion and second. Are there any other questions? All right, we're gonna call for the vote. All in favor would say aye. Aye. Any opposed would say nay. All right, your motion carries according to substitute LC 337861S.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee, and I will get that over to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next, last and final but not least, Representative Martin, you're gonna have to tell me how to pronounce your last name. For House, all right, House Bill 464.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm big. Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, thank y'all for hearing this bill. The goal of this bill, if y'all are so inclined, is to require a public comment period on every meeting or every meeting agenda put forward by a local board of education. there are systems that currently do not allow for a comment period without undue, kind of an undue notice. Maybe it's arbitrary 2 weeks or 5 days or 7 days, and if something happens within that period of time, then they don't get to comment on during that school board meeting. And so we're just asking that that we allow for those public comments to take place without having to sign up that far in advance. It also gives some provisions to the chair of that board where they can also discretion or limit the length of time or the number of individuals speaking for or against the issue. So they still can keep their meeting in order. It just basically says that they have to hear out the constituents and the people of that city or municipality or the county. It just, whether it's city, board of education, or maybe it's a county, but that's the 30,000 view on that one. Ask for your favorable consideration.
All right, you have a question, number 28. Is that Representative Hill? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Is this your first bill?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to police all of these meetings to make sure they carry out with your recommendation?
No, sir. Then this would go to public safety.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Chairman Jaspers.
Just one thing, Representative.
Yes.
We say it's the comment period during every meeting. We're not saying how much time they've got to spend.
Which line?
Well, okay, we're on line 22.
Okay.
But you're just saying during every meeting, you're not dictating they've got to spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour.
That's right. We're not doing that. We're leaving that up to the discretion of the chairperson, whoever that may be. And so what we're trying to do is formulate for some of these districts that aren't allowing for these public comment periods, just saying that they can be heard. It could be, hey, 2 people each side, 30 seconds apiece. Let's move along quick. Or it could be 5 minutes apiece, 5 people, just depending on the issue.
It'd be good to say that you're trying to send a message. Is that appropriate?
It could be seen as a message.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for bringing this bill. I actually had a bill last year, House Bill 493, that required public comment time, not only for school board, but also for commission, county commission meetings, and city council meetings. And so I appreciate you singling out the bill and just focus on the local school board, because down in Clayton County, where I represent, they do not, they allow public comment, period. But I appreciate this because it will help some of the other areas that don't want to allow the public to be able to have a comment time.
Well, Madam Chair, I've heard it said before that great minds think alike.
All right. He just trying to get my vote, right? All right. Are there any other questions for Representative? All right. Hearing none, this is appropriate time to be able to make a motion. Okay, there's been a motion made to do pass. Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been motion and second. All in favor would say, are there any questions? Okay. All in favor would say aye. Aye. Any opposed would say nay. All right, the ayes have it. For the passage of House Bill 464 LC 33752. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and staying so long. And I appreciate Chairman Jaspers for his support and our other staff person. You all have a good evening, and we'll see you all, I guess, next week.
Chick around.